Hi everyone, my name is Rebecca Knott and I'm the engagement engineer out of work. Today we have the pleasure of chatting to Professor Mike Behm, who will be talking to us, who is specializing in safety by design. So, how are you going today, Mike?
Well, good. Rebecca, thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. So, we just got a few questions to ask you today just to get to know you a bit more and about what you've done in your past career and where you are now, I guess.
Yeah, great.
So, just to start off with, do you mind telling us a bit about yourself?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm a faculty member. I'm a professor here at in the U.S., focusing on occupational safety, and my research interests are really around how we can positively affect work and worker safety and health from the upstream. How we can arrange conditions for workers to be successful.
Yeah, cool. And obviously, there's a pandemic going on in the world. So, in what ways, or if any, has your work changed because of it?
Oh, yeah, personally, well, I'm talking to you from my, living room, quote, unquote, "office," so, but I think it's great, the technology that we have. I'm really looking forward to, working with you folks, from way far away, so, but I think that, it's interesting, the social aspects in terms of how society, is, being designed by government, public policy, by the pandemic, and how you try to arrange conditions. I like that phrase for society to be successful. We can put up different designs in terms of the markings and things of that nature. And I, when I see the markings and I see the signs, I always wonder what works best. Is it the markings on the floor, or is it the signs before you go in, and what really affects people's behavior? And I'm not sure, as a researcher, it'd be interesting to try to measure those things, I think, and how you can design things differently, how you can communicate things a little bit differently, and kind of what works and what doesn't work. So, I think we've missed some opportunities to really do some live experiments. So that's from kind of a researcher standpoint, in terms of the pandemic. You know, there's some interesting ways to engineer and design things, but I'm not sure we've really, been studying it, and we're still not studying it live. So,
Yeah, yeah, we've definitely got a long way to go. And I guess we'll
yeah,
all have to make our own adaptations to
yeah.
life in COVID time. And so, moving on, so after working for a few big corporations, what prompted you to become a professor?
Well, I always had an interest in teaching, and I really, when I was doing my PhD studies at Oregon State, I caught the research bug and just fell in love with researching and reading and learning, and reading the journals that I've never even heard of, and just learning new things. And one of the things that got me interested in safety by design, um, we in when I was working for a large multinational, we in the 90s we were building a lot of new facilities, and we, as on the corporate staff, we thought we were pretty smart, by going to these newly built facilities a month or two before and doing our quote unquote safety inspection and our safety audit. And lo and behold, this brand new facility, we'd have this laundry list of things that were wrong,
Wow.
hazards that need to be fixed. And so, you sit with the plant manager at the end of your trip, and, he'd say, you know, I can't believe we built a brand new plant and you're telling me there's 20 or 30 things that I need to fix already. And so it kind of struck me that, we thought we were doing a good job by getting involved, two months before startup, but in reality, we should have been involved in the design of the built
Yeah.
environment. department. And so when I went to Oregon State, I met two professors, one in the public health department and one in the construction engineering department, who were both interested in safety by design. And it was just kind of by happenstance that this all kind of unfolded and kind of came into place for me. Yeah, that's, kind of my story in terms of, you know, how, how my interest has been piqued by all of this.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always when you least expect it, I guess.
Yeah.
And so moving on to another question. So with your expertise and education in public health, how have you perceived the way the pandemic has been dealt with globally? I guess this is you touched on a little bit in the previous question.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think, when you look at, how a country like, let's say, New Zealand has, you know, certainly handled things from a policy perspective, but also in terms of some of its advantage by design. It's a small isolated island that, lends to some advantages, but they certainly, design things from many levels that were highly successful. And so then you look at the United States, where different states are doing different things, and we're not quite sure what the federal government is doing. Maybe you want to cut that one out. I don't know, but it's interesting to see state by state how states have been going, both early on, kind of in the middle, and now. Uh, I'm certainly not sure there is a middle yet to this whole thing, but
Mm.
certainly to the current state. And, you can look back at those policies and those, um, procedures and how people are handling things and communicating things. So, um, I think we know how to, this is not 1918.
Mhm.
This is
Yeah,
2020. And so I think that we have the scientific knowledge that we know how to strategically handle a pandemic and still keep the economy going. But it's a matter of crafting those policies in a very creative way. Um, that's just where kind of the failures are. There seems to be kind of rushes to judgment. So that's kind of my take on it.
yeah, yeah, and there's definitely a lot to learn from how different countries have dealt with it, but I guess it's
Absolutely.
very dependent on who's in power and who gets the final say, which
Yeah.
we know. Um, cool. So on to the next question. What inspired you to become a volunteer at the American Society of Safety Professionals? And what was the most challenging aspect of being the vice president of the Council on Academic Affairs and Research?
Oh, I didn't know that you knew that. Yeah, I mean, I
Big
think,
news.
you know, um, people think that volunteering and doing things takes time, and it's going to be a drain on their energy and things like that. But I found over my career that volunteering for things really enriches your life, both personally
I'm
and
sure, yeah.
professionally. And so, I've always tried to be engaged in something, on a volunteer type of a level, in some of a leadership type of a role. And so, I remember, gosh, I don't know, 2012, 13, 14, maybe, or maybe it was earlier than that. I was on the city of Greenville, where I live, the Environmental Advisory Commission, which advised the city council on environmental issues. And, just getting involved in that was interesting and challenging, but also very rewarding in a lot of different ways. We had a little educational grant that we gave to, um, the local schools, and they competed for it, and I was kind of in charge of that, so that was fun. So, and the American Society of Safety Professionals is, I think, a wonderful organization. I think they do a lot of great educational workshops, and so. trying to serve them, is definitely challenging, but it's definitely rewarding. So
Yeah,
it
sure.
did, you grow as a person more by,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and it's a great feeling to be a part of a community as well, to feel
yeah,
like you belong and learn from others, and it not doesn't necessarily have to be a chore, it can be an enjoyment, and you can get a lot out of it.
yeah, yep, yeah.
So moving on, so what are the biggest issues companies face with occupational safety in your opinion?
Oh, well, I think the biggest overarching issue is that companies believe that safety is a compliance item
Mhm.
rather than a people item. And so, you really don't need a university degree to be able to read the regulations. You
Mhm.
just need to,
Yeah.
you just need to be able to read. And so,
Mhm.
it's, workplace safety and health is about so much more than the regulations. It's about more than a checklist. I'm really opposed to checklists in any form or function. I myself like to make a list of things that I have to do in my personal life and professional life, and I like crossing that list off. But I don't necessarily, use a checklist like a safety professional would use a checklist to see if things are right or wrong. It's never that black and white and that dichotomous. So I think the biggest challenge is that we don't engage workers. The safety profession, managers, the white shirts, you might say, or the white hats. If you're on a construction site, they might think that they know what's best, and as soon as being a researcher, it's become clear to me that the more you know, the more you realize that you don't know.
Yeah.
And so it's not about it's not about being an expert. It's not about having all the answers, but it's about being curious and being able to ask good questions and being able to engage with people. I and I think we've lost that. I think the safety professions lost that to a large degree because either we're relying on the regulations or we're relying on a checklist or we're relying on the attitude that we as managers know best.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, that's very interesting. Um, and I guess just to cap off a little bit less related to your career, but what excites you outside of work?
Well, I have two boys that keep me busy, 14 and 16. So, we're the pandemic has kind of made us a little bit lazy. I will admit that. But usually we're busy doing all kinds of things. I'm always walking my dog, and I love to go hiking. I love to be outdoors.
Yeah.
Um, and I love to travel. I love traveling. I love meeting new people and seeing new places. Hopefully, we're talking about coming to Australia in 2020. There's a conference that's being hosted by RMIT, and my two sons really want to come over. So, we're I think they're they're kind of getting the travel bug a little bit too. So hopefully things clear up,
Yeah.
and so hopefully in 2022 we're in Melbourne for a little bit. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that would be nice. Just
yeah.
don't come in winter, it's not as great here.
Well, that's what yeah. I was talking with another one of my colleagues there. He's like, "Why are they having the conference in June?" That's I said, "Well, we can see a footy game, so that's
Yeah,
good."
that's true.
Yeah, yeah. So
Okay, well, thank you very much for taking the time to chat to me today, Mike. It's been a pleasure.
thank you. Likewise, Rebecca.